I think that was very formative in my understanding of how different society is, and I think there's a bigger awareness of that. I mean, or just generated that. I think going and experiencing that with my peers who I went to high school with, and we've been friends forever, and going and experiencing or seeing firsthand poverty across the borders, even though that similar poverty exists here. But I think that really jump-started it jump-started a lot of my own passions for like injustice, my own passions for people who are very different and culturally different from me, and knowing really honestly what it means to, what is it, and asking really hard questions of like, what does it really mean to love somebody, and what does it really mean to actually help somebody? Providing, like, building a house for someone, that, you could say that's like really providing love and help for somebody, but is that the only need that they really have? And are you only giving out of like your own wealth? Or is there something to be gained from that other relationship, sort of like a reciprocal relationship from them? So I think it was a very good experience. It was 10 days of my life, which seems like a long time, I think, when you're younger. But yeah, it was a good experience. Oh, I love Berkeley so much. And advantages to living in Berkeley were that, and my grandmother told me this before I went there, is that Berkeley is the world. It is the world. There is every thought. There is so many different types of people that you encounter in Berkeley, and it is the world, but it's actually not the real world, right? Because the real world doesn't live in this like one little bubble, or like this one city where there's thought and people are expressing all these different things and being able to, you know, share their free, you know, be able to fully express like free speech and whatever. So there's this mindset to living in Berkeley that's just so beautiful, so just desiring to really engage all identities and like desiring to engage wherever your background is and be like, yeah, you are valuable. Your voice is important. And that's really a really cool environment to be around. I think its proximity to San Francisco and its proximity to Oakland, amazing. When I went to Berkeley, I had no idea, just living a few miles from Oakland, and how just that influence of all the things that are going on there, you know, the poverty, but also just the politics and the diversity, how it's just constantly being influenced, right, from this like academic, very academic city, but there's also their own struggles. Disadvantages of living in Berkeley is that, I guess on the other hand, of being a place where it's an example of the whole world and there's many different thoughts, the other disadvantage to that is people expect the rest of the world, or once you travel out of Berkeley, they expect the rest of the world to be like that. Everyone expects Berkeley, or like everybody expects everyone to strive for it to be Berkeley. The reality is like, and I think there's aspects of that when I was there that I came back here. Why isn't Cloverdale like Berkeley? I mean, what kind of a stupid question is that? It's not, and that's what's great about Cloverdale, is that it's not like Berkeley, and that it is kind of refreshing to get to even hear, you know, different viewpoints, or to hear, quote unquote, what people in the urban areas would call like this rural life, is people just loving, enjoying this simple life. So there's a disadvantage, I think, to there, because you can get really stuck and think and become very elitist, and you can become pretentious, thinking that you know how the world should operate, but you don't even, and so it's interesting, right? Because you value to hear all the different experiences, you value to hear where everyone comes from, but you value to hear those things, but then when you actually like, you know, experience those, or if you go somewhere where they're not doing things the exact same way that you are, then it's like, oh, they're racist, they are so prejudiced, they are backward, and we're progressive. So I think there's that balance. I guess in order to answer that, I have to believe that I'm worthy of answering that. I think I think the world, honestly, needs, I think people would say, most people would say, I think the world needs love. But I think that people say that because they misunderstand what love is. They have an idea that's probably built up to them by watching like movies like The Notebook. Because what it really means to love people is actually to love people is sacrificial. And I believe that to an extent. People who love you most, it's because they've sacrificed for you. And so I think in that way, I would say like from my, and I actually do think this for the whole world, like I do think that people need more Jesus in their life. Like I think he is a prime example of what it means to sacrifice for people. I think he is a prime example of what it means to forgive. And people don't know how to, I think forgiveness is really hard for our society. People would prefer to love other people, love, and not forgive others. I think so. Because forgiveness is really hard, and it's really hard to really reconcile with other people that are really different. And so I do, like I mean, because he is, I think Jesus is the only example that we have in Scripture, and I think through, that I've seen in encountering other people through other faiths that I did so often, yeah, he's really cool. And I would encourage, like, I think people, no matter where you are, is to really invest and know, and actually ask people, and don't be afraid to, I mean, if you want to settle for like how it's portrayed, you know, or people's personal experiences with churches, I think that's, you know, people often will walk away from that, but man, I would encourage you to really get in and be like, who is this Jesus? Like what is he doing? Like, what is he doing? Because I think it is, when I actually did that, really, I think maybe honestly for the first time when I went to college and actually said, who is he? It was really cool. It was really transformative.
Hi, I'm Ben Hennon.
Hi, I'm Daisy Rauda.
Hi, I'm Laundra Siago.